Thanks for clicking. My name is Mark Mitchell. I'm a mortgage broker here in London, Ontario. As we go into the Thanksgiving Day long weekend, I just wanted to go over this week's China updates, as there was quite a few coming out, all of which could, and very well probably will, have an effect on Canada's real estate market, so that's why it matters for us. We are expecting some more announcements next week from the Bank of Canada, as well as some more real estate data, and of course the weekly update on the Evergrande saga. So if you want to get those updates, please do click like and subscribe. But for right now, let's get into the China update. So things for Evergrande actually got worse this week, as expected by many. Stocks for the real estate developer were halted on the Chinese stock exchange. When trading of Evergrande stocks were halted, the company announced that we should be waiting for a major announcement about a major transaction. This announcement didn't really come. There was some talk of Hobson purchasing a large stake in Evergrande's property management division, but nothing about the actual real estate development portion. So investors and onlookers and commentators spent the week waiting for this announcement, which never came. And as a result of all this, Evergrande's bonds continued to fall and were trading at basically junk status but by the end of the week. But what was really interesting about the China story leads us to our second story related to Evergrande, which was that two other major real estate developers in China missed payments this week as well. Most notably was Fantasia, smaller than Evergrande but still sizable in China, missed its payment. And this was notable because Fantasia had recently said that they weren't going to have any problems and that the liquidity crunch, the cash crunch, was just Evergrande's problem and wouldn't spread to Fantasia, and then they promptly missed their payment.
Fantasia, the expectation was actually that they were going to make this payment, albeit face other financial struggles with its next maturities.
Another real estate developer, Cynic, also missed their payment this week. So whereas just a few weeks ago we had it just Evergrande, we can see this liquidity crisis, this credit crunch, is moving to the other real estate developers. Obviously, it's not just Evergrande that are having these problems. And as I mentioned in previous videos, the problem is that if investors in China and overseas investors start to see all of their holdings plummet because these companies are defaulting, they may very well be forced to sell their significant holdings in Canada, which would flood our market with more real estate. Although obviously Evergrande isn't a great investment right now. For its part, Finch downgraded both Fantasia and Cynic down to default status. So obviously the warnings are going out that Evergrande, Fantasia, and Cynic, these major real estate development firms in China, aren't safe bets. This is spreading. This started with Evergrande just a few weeks ago. We weren't talking about Fantasia or Cynic. We were just talking about this one developer, and it was called a Lehman moment because if not handled correctly, it would spread. Despite so many claims out there that it wasn't going to spread.
I don't think this is a Lehman moment.
We agree this is not a Lehman moment for China.
That's why, despite what you heard in the press, the risk from Evergrande never really was systemic.
Here we are. And obviously this is probably going to continue, and it's looking like it's not going to get any better in the near future. Third update from China, the power outages continued, and the power crisis continued throughout China, and shutdowns continued as well. You probably have read the headlines. There's also a energy crisis in Europe occurring right now, but especially in China, and this really matters for our inflation rate. With shortages becomes higher prices. That's always the case. And we're starting to see higher inflation here in Canada. And as the power shortage and shutdowns continue in China, the cost of goods, the cost of import goods, are going to come to Canada. So as inflation rises up and those cost of goods go up as well, there's going to be more and more pressure for the central bank to raise rates to keep a lid on that inflation. Not really what we want to see right now, but we were hoping to see some good news out of China this week vis-a-vis the power crisis, but it doesn't look like it's happening. And finally, and this isn't directly financially related, but the Chinese government sent a couple, 4 dozen warplanes into Taiwanese airspace this week, which was probably just a threat gesture, but I thought it noted because I really don't think the government is going to risk war with the United States, especially right now. China's rising power, but it's nowhere near the military power of the US. So what I think this shows is that they wanted a distraction from the financial issues going on in with Evergrande, with Cynic, and with Fantasia, and the power crisis, and their whole real estate downfall in general. So what I think the Chinese government was trying to do is distract from this growing crisis that's happening in China as more and more companies default on their debts. And the price of bonds, the bond prices get lower and lower and lower, meaning riskier and riskier. So I don't think that this was actually I don't think that China actually intends on invading Taiwan. What I think this was a distraction, a wag the dog moment without the actual war. But with that said, let's hope that I'm right and this wasn't. But as we said last week, we'll have more and more information out as the real estate crisis unfolds in China, and there's lots more debt payments to come throughout the rest of the year. So we'll continue to watch as this unfolds in China. Click like and subscribe to get those updates, and have a great Thanksgiving weekend.